Good morning and welcome to class. So settle back in your chosen position. If you have a block and a belt available to you, have that nearby. And as you settle back, close your eyes and let your eyes soften back. So the muscles around the eyes, the corners of the eyes, the eyelids, relax. And swallow to relax your throat. And let the root of the tongue rest down. So you feel your tongue move away from the roof of the mouth. It widens out and rests down in your mouth. Part the back teeth. As you feel a settling and softening through the facial muscles, one of our main communication devices in life, notice how maybe other areas of your body are able to also relax. So the neck, the shoulders. You might even notice that the whole body, as you close your eyes and relax your face, that everything begins to soften and surrender a bit more. Then breathing in through the nose, draw the breath in, pause at the top and exhale out of the mouth. And do that a few times. Calming the out breath now, moving it more slowly and attenuated out through the mouth, blowing out through the mouth. Couple more of those. And when you're ready, breathe in and out of the nose, smoothly, evening out the inhale and exhale. And we'll add in a concentration technique of counting the breath and speaking these words to yourself, counting from 7 down to 0. So I'll give you an example. You'll say to yourself, breathing in 7, breathing out 7, breathing in 6, breathing out 6. So let's begin that now. When you're ready, saying to yourself, breathing in 7, breathing out 7, in and out of the nose. Continue on your own. Following the count of the numbers, the words repeating to yourself, fully immersed in the movement of breath and the counting. And when you've completed 0, continue to breathe in and out of the nose. Relax the face again. And perhaps the counting process has invited our mind to be more present right here and right now. So today I'll share a poet's expression of the quality of truth from the Book of Qualities by Ruth Gendler. And this is how she describes truth. Truth is tall and rather unconventional looking. He has golden hair and a short beard. He does not like statistics and is not particularly concerned about facts, but he loves a good story. He chronicled the contemporary film scene for a while. He quit when his reviews started being quoted out of context. Though he never hides what he feels, by nature he is gentle and not at all sarcastic. However, he does have a fierce temper. He has observed that people who only listen with one ear when he says something in a kind way are always impressed by his anger. Truth has been employed as a thief, stealing illusions. He can climb over any security fence we have constructed to keep out disturbing influences. Although he can unlock any window or door, he's no longer interested in breaking in or getting away. No longer thrilled by the chase, nor by defying authorities. He has given up on the challenge of trying to find new ways to escape. X-rays, photographs of cells, and the history of plants fascinate Truth. When Truth's fingers touch my shoulder, I hear bone touching bone. Truth has set down his bundle of needs, and his shoulders are soft and spacious, outlined by light. Truth learned to act in the theater of qualities, and his studies in mime continue. He lingers in the long pauses between the questions and the answers. He has made an altar to his loneliness. Certainty and uncertainty are both welcome at his table. Truth is willing to wait for a long time with little attention or visible encouragement. Truth is not willing to live without love. So come back to the breath now. And begin to sponge the breath in. Imagine it, even though it's going in and out of the nose, imagine it going into the heart. And breathing out of the heart. And just feel that flow in and out of the heart. And as you continue to breathe with that visualization of the heart drawing full and clearing as we exhale, let's tune into what your heart is feeling today. And offer your practice to what your heart is needing. Next in-breath, wiggle the fingers, the toes. Lengthen the neck and let your head sway gently side to side. As your head returns, inhale and glide the arms up. Spread out your fingers, spread out the toes. Point and flex through the hands and the feet. Open and close the jaw, maybe a yawn in there. Scrunch into the eyes, lift the eyebrows high. Roll the shape of the mouth around the teeth. And then breathe in, pucker the lips up high, lift the eyebrows. Exhale, stick the tongue out, roar a little bit. 2 more of those. Breathe in. Little lion's breath. 1 more. Good. Lace your fingers, push the palms away, and explore the side arc in your body. Reaching all the way down the side length of the body. All right, back at center. Bend the elbows. Let's release our arms all the way down. Bend into the knees and move any cushions out from underneath your feet. From there, with your feet planted about hip socket width apart, maybe a little wider, hands on the front of the pelvic points, you'll begin a nice, subtle, sort of yoga / Feldenkrais move for the pelvic tilt. So subtle meaning abdominals, low back muscles, even hip flexors that you can feel there with your fingers, they're staying pretty mellow. And you're going to inhale, tip very gently toward the end of the sacrum, and exhale back up toward the top edge of the sacrum. And that bone that I'm talking about, 5 fused bones, is an inverted shaped triangular bone. And it clicks into the pelvis, where your hands are touching the pelvis there. And the tailbone is attached to the end of it. So just moving with ease. As you get more and more used to it, try to relax as many muscles as possible. So it's just the very minimum needed to create this movement. Things you can begin to notice is what level of symmetry you currently have between the 2 sides of the sacrum and pelvis. Is one side tender compared to the other? And we're just inviting any releases in tight musculature, Any areas that need some shoring up, we're inviting them to wake up and add to the movement. So it's usually a combination of both. When we have something going wonky, there's tissues that are pulled long and there are tissues that are pulled tight. And our hope is to balance those out. So then land right in the center of that movement, which should be akin to your constructive rest position. Centered, relaxed, no muscular action needed, and the pelvis is the center point. From that center point, imagine your hands like the seats on a teeter-totter and just lean down through one seat and then the other. So now you're beginning to rock a side-to-side motion, a horizontal line to the first vertical line you were making. Same idea here. At first, you'll probably be using more momentum. Maybe your hands get involved and they help push down each side of the pelvis. But eventually, I want you to relax and let the inner body gently do the movement with as little muscular engagement as possible. Same thing, you can kind of tune into each side, what's going on there. Is it a smooth rocking or is it choppy? And your knees and your feet go along for the little ride there. Slight tipping side to side. Then return again to the center of those two motions, the vertical and the horizontal. Breathe in and just exhale a sigh, relaxing. Good. Then picture that very center dot, almost where you'd see a clock and its hands come together, connecting to that center dot. And I want you to try to draw the tiniest circle around that center dot, so you'll hardly notice any movement in the pelvis at first. And it's just the tiniest little circle right in the center of your resting point. And then eventually start to spiral that tiny circle out so it gets incrementally, smoothly bigger. Still going one direction. And you can maybe visualize that with your eyes closed as you're feeling it. And again, you might encounter some choppy areas or tender areas. Pay attention and do your best to relax into the spiral, relax into a smoother action. Now, eventually that spiral goes out to kind of your normal pelvic clock positioning. So, and today you customize that to what you need. It might be fairly big where you're sort of outlining that inverted triangle of the sacrum. It might stay smaller or even more oval shaped, so you're more directly on the sacrum and less on the pelvis. And as your attention continues to breathe easy as you do this movement, notice the additional little circles the body is making just by following along with the pelvis. Feel your connection to the earth and the little circles that your body's drawing in unison with the pelvis, just naturally occurring. And we're going to slow that down and let ourselves rest again right in the very center. Breathe in, exhale a sigh. Good. Heavy. Picturing that very center of the clock where the hands connect to the clock. And begin that other direction. So go the opposite direction. For me, it's counterclockwise. And just do a teeny tiny circle right around where the hands would affix to the clock. Notice the interesting muscles that need to awaken in order to be able to do that. It's different than when the spiral gets bigger. Notice the small wave of sensations, maybe in the belly, maybe under your hands in the front of the pelvis. And then begin to slowly spiral that out. Now take your time. So it's going to take maybe 8-10 circular motions to get to your max position. Smooth it out. Breathe easy. Draw that line with your mind as you're moving your pelvis. So if we apply the studies of clinical somatics to, say, therapeutic yoga, which this is a therapeutic yoga move, we can think about why is it that certain areas, when they get injured or we wake up and they're hurting, how there's tends to be evidence of a sensory, motor, or a muscular amnesia in that area. So what even this move, and all of us can benefit from this, even if you don't have stuff going on in the low back and sacrum, is that it's helping wake up areas that are offline. It's getting your sensory motor cortex to pay attention, to feel and imagine and draw the line with your body and with your brain paying attention. So hopefully all of our yoga practices add to that. As we're in this sort of constant state as humans, as part of us goes to sleep, and we reawaken it through our yoga. All right, so you're probably spinning around now slowly at your biggest circular or oval shaped point. Notice how that's feeling. Notice the other circles happening in the body as they touch the earth. And then come back to rest right in the center. Once you're there, breathe in, and as you exhale, relax back to the floor. So all the concentrating, all the muscular effort, just soften. Good. All right. The feet may need to move in slightly closer toward your buttocks rather than out further in the constructive rest. And take the feet in closer so the thighs touch, maybe the feet touch as well. Palms are going to come down low now in a kind of a capital A position with the palms firmly rooted. And, legs and feet as close together as they can be. Now, this is a subtle movement, not very far, not even as big as some of the somatic moves we do. You're just going to lean your legs slowly about 4 to 8 inches one way, turn your head opposite of that. Inhale, back slowly to center. And let's do the movement. Actually, let me switch that. Inhale, lean the knees, turn the head. No more than 8 inches. Exhale. Slow movement, contracting the body to bring the legs and the head back up. And we'll do that a few more times. Inhaling, tipping to the side. I switched it to the inhale so you'd have more intra-abdominal support as you breathe in for the low back. So you're just rocking gently across the pelvis with the legs, helping to move that. And the head turning opposite. Your hands are the finishing points of the tripod between the hands and the 2 feet being together there. This is Sacral Rock Series 1. We're going to do number 2 here in a moment. All right. Whenever you inhale back to center, pause. Breathe in, exhale a sigh. Even these moves being sort of small and innocuous, they take your big amount of attention and focus. So let that exhale kind of soften that so it's not too intense. Then cross your right thigh on top of the left. So not ankle, but thigh on thigh. And you'll do the same motion, head turning opposite of knees as you inhale, exhale, contracting back to center. And we're not taking the knees, and you can go both ways in this one. So knees go to the left and the right as you inhale, then exhale back to center, and then inhale the other direction. So what I was going to say is keep the feet pretty grounded so the knees aren't going far enough to tip the foot off the ground, the left foot. Inhaling a little lean, slow contractive move as you exhale back to center. Purposefully taking the sacrum into an asymmetrical position through crossing the legs. So you're massaging one side of it with more depth than the other right now. All right, when you exhale back to center, uncross the legs, feet next to each other, legs are close, breathe in, exhale a sigh. Relax your face, relax back into the natural curves of your body. Root down through the bottoms of the feet, and then slide your left thigh on top of the right. Inhale without the foot lifting, tip your knees one way, the head the other, and exhale, contracting back up. Continue going the other direction. Inhaling and exhaling. And this is Sacral Rock version 2. It's a back care basics move. There's a large compilation of movements like this in Dr. Mary Pullig's book called Back Care Basics. It's been around at least a couple decades, but it still has some very relevant and good somatic type yoga moves. Finish up the direction you're heading into or that you're finishing up. And when you return, inhale, uncross the legs. You can widen your feet slightly. Breathe in, exhale a sigh. Good. All right, so let's place the hands on the front of your pelvic points again. Cross your right ankle onto the left knee or left thigh. I'll show this from the headlong visual. We're going to plant our hands on those pelvic points to help support us. The knee, shin, ankle stay in good alignment, and you're going to do the butterfly wing. So here we just resist the urge of the leg to take the pelvis to tip over to the right. So keep your pelvis well and firmly grounded. Your upper back is lengthened up, your neck is long, and the knee tips toward you more, and then it goes out only a max of about 45 degrees. That way we don't borrow from, that's a nice way of saying compensating, we don't borrow from the SI joint ligaments. So even just establishing that firm decision between how you open your hip and when you decide to involve the pelvis, super important for our low back sacral ligaments to remain healthy and stable through our lives. Okay, so then pause in that 45-degree angle. You can stay there, just kind of affirming the rooted pelvis, or you can now go into the buttock and external rotator stretch, lifting the left foot up off the floor. be conscious not to change the angle of the knee. I know that's tough because it kind of wants to flare further out to the right. So just try to keep it in that 45-degree range. You can just use the leverage of your left foot holding the right leg in position, or you could thread your arms, hands, or belt through and behind the left thigh. So closing the eyes, breathe the front body full. Exhale, soften into the back body. Make sure the knee and the hip are feeling safe. This is a classic move to help open up the tissues that tend to lay right across the sciatic nerve. The piriformis is sort of the frenemy of that area of the body. Definitely needed. Every step we take, the piriformis is involved in supporting the psoas. So as our heel lands, the piriformis wakes up along with the external rotators that join it. But it can also cause havoc as it pinches the sciatic nerve. And they have shown in anatomy that some people with more chronic issues with that the piriformis can actually have been built surrounding the sciatic nerve. So instead of the nerve passing by the muscle, it's actually threaded through the muscle. So we want these muscles to be open. Stretching is part of the answer, but not the whole picture. Okie dokie. So on the in-breath, consciously set your left foot down, tilt your right thigh and knee more toward you, lift your foot up off the leg then, and rotate it more neutral. Then lower the foot. So just going through very specific motions there to take care of the hip. Then bring the left knee in, and we're going to place those hands on the front pelvic points again and cross the ankle or heel onto the knee or onto that right thigh. And same thing, different side here as we butterfly the left leg. So get a sense of rooting down through the pelvis, natural low back curve, tilt the knee toward you and no more than 45 degrees away from you. And the translation there for any SI joint stuff should be like no sensation down into that SI joint when you open up the knee. If there is, don't open so far. All right. So we're in training through repetitive motion, through concentrating, the kind of hip movement we want to ingrain in the body, that it stops borrowing from its neighbor there, the SI joint. So then pause, and you can just commit to that, just really settle through the pelvis and keep the leg at your comfortable angle. You can also lift the right foot up off the floor and just use leverage there, or thread the hands through and behind the right thigh. You could also use a belt as an extender. Make sure the ankle looks nice and straight with the shin and the knee, toes are spread out. And you're not forcing the left thigh open. I can't tell you how many years I did that and taught that, just thinking that was the best stretch, without realizing I was torquing into ligaments in my sacrum. So it's just a little bit newer information and specific to some of the teachers I study with that work on rebuilding ligament stability that tends to get, unfortunately, loosened up a bit when we have done a lot of yoga and stretching and other activities. Nice full breath into the front body. Exhale into the back body. Notice how this left hip is experiencing it. If you're having current sciatica, notice how it might be edging it, but we don't want it to fire up and feel like hot, acute pain. Good job. On the in-breath, slowly release the hands, good control of the body, set the foot down, and then lifting your left foot up, rotate the leg so it's neutral, bend the knee, and set down. Hands can rest on your pelvis again. Breathe in fully. Exhale a sigh. Take your feet a little bit wider. And your arms out from your heart in a T. Rotate gently the armpits and palms up. Spread the toes, and you're going to go in really nicely and moderately with the windshield wiper movement. And you can exhale into the twist itself, and inhale, glide back up with strength. So with all movements that affect an area of your body that you might be challenged by currently, biggest help that you can offer your body is to choose more moderate movements around the particular area of the body you're taking care of. So if you had knee, hip, low back, SI joint issues currently, this would be more moderate today than your normal move. The max for everyone's about 3/4 of the way to the floor. All right, excellent. When you inhale, return to center and narrow the feet. So I'm going to stay in this position to hopefully show a view of this, and I'll angle diagonal as well. So this is, I learned this from Martin Kirk, a teacher in the Valley, lovely guy, a few years back, maybe more than that now, but it was a move to help self-adjust the SI joint. So it's a leverage move, and you may or may not have the arm length and the reach, but I want to show it in case you do. So let's do the right side first. So what happens is you lift both feet up off the floor. The right leg, we thread the right arm under, and you might get a lot of the arm, you might just get the wrist under there, and you thread it under the back of the thigh and the knee. You can use belts and kind of create a whole web here to create this leverage, but I'm just going to show it with the arms today. So you hook under, and then that hand rests on the front of your left leg wherever you can reach. Okay, so I know it's a lot to ask, and it does help to have long arms. So left hand goes on top of the left knee. So you can already feel sort of this resistance going on, one thing pulling one way, the other pulling the other way, and that it helps the little elephant ears of the pelvis adjust around the sacrum. So see how it feels to gently apply pressure of the right leg pressing away from you. And as you pull the left knee towards you, your right hand is resisting that as well. So see how it feels. Don't push with your max amount of pressure. Just feel the beginning of it. See how you're doing. Another full breath if you can. Relax into the back. Good. And then lighten that up. We're going to unwrap the crazy arm position there. And then set one foot down at a time. Let's just breathe a moment. Breathe in, exhale a sigh. And let the pelvis settle. Let the sacrum settle. And then we'll do side two. So we lift the left foot up off the floor. Try to hook your left arm under that leg, maybe just the back of the wrist. Lift your right foot up off the floor and place that hand, if possible, on the front of your right thigh or knee, whatever area you can reach. The right hand is on top of the right knee. And then already you might begin to feel the low back is definitely heavy to the floor as well as the pelvis. You're probably already feeling the action happening here. You can slowly add to it incrementally. The left thigh pushes away into the hooked arm. The right hand pulls the knee in as your left hand resists that. And breathe. I can really feel it deep in that left hip flexor. I felt the same when we were doing the other side on the right hip flexor. So nice, easy breaths. If there's immediate sharp pain or anything that doesn't feel right, absolutely stop. So eventually you learn, if you have just one side that's wonky, you can just use one or the other. Okay, then ease up. You can start to release the hands. Consciously set right foot down, unwrap the left arm. Consciously set left foot down. Palms open again. Breathe in fully. Exhale a good sigh. All right. There's probably a lot of energy buzzing around the pelvis and the sacrum, with our whole focus being there so far today. So notice how that area feels. Let your somatic awareness drop in and feel the tingling, feel the warmth, feel the sensation. That as a meditation tool is powerful. It drops you right out of the ticker tape parade of the thinking mind and puts you into a more embodied state, different part of the brain. All right, wiggle those fingers, those toes, and walk one knee in followed by the other. So we're now going to guide the knees, same direction circle. You can keep the thighs and knees about hip socket width apart. Nice easy circle. You're checking in with that earlier clock that you did and see how it feels. So try to lay down a heavy line as you draw it now with the control of the hands. Is it any smoother? How are the tender areas, if there were any? Slow it down when the legs are close to you and go the other direction. All right. And then pause. Set one foot down at a time. Now I want to do this move today. As I said, stretching for sciatica is part of the helpful things you can do. The other part is more of a pendiculation. So if again you have acute pain today, this may or may not be helpful to you, but often if it's muscularly oriented, those muscles have tightened up. They might be Charlie horse slightly and really shortened. And stretching is only a short-term fix. Pendiculation can actually help lengthen those out. The trick is you have to engage them before you lengthen them. So we're going to try the clamshell move. So I want you to roll towards your screen. Doesn't matter if it's right side or left side. You can use a second blanket or your hand underneath the head. And the knees will be bent, heels up, not super tight to the buttocks, but also not way out there. So they are underneath your buttocks more. And the knees out in front of you somewhat. Doesn't have to even be up at a right angle, but slightly lower than that's great. Then place your hand, the top hand, I'll just use top and bottom, at the side of the hip joint there. So that is actually your pelvis is up higher. We felt that earlier. This bone down lower, this is your outer hip joint, the greater trochanter. So from that bone, slide back behind it, and you're right in that zone of those muscles that tend to create some issues for sciatic nerve. So piriformis, and there's, I think, 3 or 4 others that I can't name right now. And so what you're going to do is you're going to clamshell that, engaging that area particularly. And you may just lift a little bit. You might lift up higher. You're going to inhale, keep the feet together, and clamshell that top knee up. And it doesn't take much for me to feel it, that's for sure. I don't know what you're feeling. And then the key in the pendiculation is a slow, smooth release. So know as you slowly release that leg, you are training those muscles to lengthen back out. It may not feel like it, but that's what's happening. When the legs arrive, I want you to relax just heavy, thigh into thigh. Relax where you feel the buttock muscle there engaging. And then once you've relaxed fully, maybe for a full breath, you're going to engage that again. Inhale, lifting the knee up, the feet stay together, just until you feel that really engage nicely. And then without, hopefully, firing up more pain if you've got something going on, slow, slow release. Now, this one and the next one, if you have choppiness along the way, I want you to pause right in the choppiness, lift back up an inch or so, and try to glide back down through that with less choppiness. You can do that up to a couple times. And again, if it's too much today, then just rest, okay?
When your legs come together again, rest heavy, relax that area in the buttock, and we'll do one more. Inhale, lifting up. You don't have to go high again, so keep it more mellow if your SI joint or sciatica is bugging you today. And then try to flow down. And if you have choppiness, I have a little bit, so I'm going to go back and forth. Just doing your best to get your brain to smooth out the action of the muscles firing. And when you arrive again, relax. We're going to straighten out that top leg and just rotate it inward. So a pigeon toe position can be a quick way to affect these muscles, to get them to get off of the sciatic nerve. So you can stand pigeon-toed, you can sit more pigeon-toed, you can do some of the exercises pigeon-toed, and sometimes that also helps. So just feel that release. Just imagine that sensation from the tight outer buttock sliding down the leg. And then we're going to do just 2 of the IT band ones. So this will help down further the leg, and it'll help the rest of the sciatic line. Press your hand into the side of the thigh, lift the leg up in the pigeon toe position. It doesn't have to be very high. And then slowly as you lower, if you have choppiness, I do today, I'm going to lift back up through that and then slowly lower. And just don't do more than 2 of those repeats. When you land, let the big toe be heavy. Relax the muscles as much as you can on the outer thigh. And one more time. Press against the leg, lift up in a pigeon toe-like position. Press down through the bottom leg, slowly lower. Ooh, I'm definitely choppy today. So just do your best. If it's too much, just bring it down. All right, once you're down, bend both knees, rest completely. Just bring your arm down to fetal position, resting. Breathe in, exhale, a sigh. Good. So now you feel all that sensation streaming down that leg. Now, if you're good with just listening to my voice, just roll to the other side. If you'd like to still be able to have a visual, let's just lift ourselves up and shift over to the other side. You can tuck your arm and hand under the head or use a blanket. Set up your knees so they're pretty stacked. The feet are slightly tucked underneath, but not way up toward the buttock. And the knees are a little bit lower than right angle. Get comfortable on the side of your ribs. Place your hand, find that greater trochanter. So just knowing that's your hip bone there. And then sliding behind that right into the external rotators. And then feet stay together. Press into the muscles as you lift the knee up, doing the little clamshell. Pause at the height of it. And then this first one, just try to slowly make your way all the way down. Just notice, become aware of the choppiness if there is any. You might watch it with your visual as well. When your legs arrive together, relax completely. Get heavy to the floor. Feel the muscles relax. Next inhale. Now we're going to lift up. You decide how high. Feel the muscles engage. And then slowly return. And where you see a little speed bumping or jittering, I want you to lift back up slightly into it and then back down again. And you can do that a couple times. And then when your legs come together, rest heavy. Just remember, each part is important. The contraction wakes up the brain. The slow release is the re-lengthening into a resting length for these muscles that might be overly taut. And then the rest in between is important to let your brain soak that up. One more time, lifting up in the clamshell. Pause at the height of it so you're sure about, yep, you feel the contraction. Slowly lower any choppiness. You're going to magic erase it back and forth. I can tell I haven't done these in a while. I'm pretty choppy today. And when you arrive, relax deep and heavy into the earth. Extend the top leg out. And just still, if it's comfortable, let it rest on the bottom leg and rotate into a slight pigeon toe position, internal rotation. And just feel the energy of the leg extending out there. Now the bottom leg is our kickstand. We push into that bottom leg for support. The hand rests on the IT band. Press into it with the pigeon toe position. Rise up. Might be a foot, might be a few inches. Slow release. And you can go back and forth on this one right away if you'd like. So if you need to do the magic eraser, do so. When the big toe lands again, rest there, nice and heavy. And then press down through the bottom leg, and let's do that one more time. Inhale, rising up, pigeon toe position. Start to lower. If there's choppiness, go back and forth through it. Really concentrate on the quality. When your foot finally lands, bend both knees. Let your left hand come, or your top hand, I should say, let it come down. Close your eyes, breathe in. Exhale a sigh. Good. And then use your top hand for support. Slide the top leg away, let your head hang, and make your way up. Okay, so let's have a seat. And if you want to sit up on something or even sit in a chair, go for it. All right, so buttocks back, sits bones nice and heavy. Hands will come together to join the heart. Close the eyes. Feel your front body relaxing toward the back body. The head in that warrior's position with the chin slightly tipped down. And the rest of your architecture aligning nicely over the bowl of the pelvis. Relax into your seated mountain. Find your breath. From our centered selves, we'll chant our ohms out to each other, out from our hearts into our communities. 3 ohms. Exhale, root down. Inhale, expand your heart in all directions. Breathe it in. Let your head bow. Notice the effects of the vibration, of the sound of the chant. When you're ready, release your palms open. Softly blink the eyes open. Let the outer light greet your inner light. And breathe your head up. All right, scoop up the legs. We'll come off of our cushions. And fold your blankets so that you'll have some knee padding there. And set up in a tabletop position. So as you walk your hands into good placement, because as you know, as you commit the hands, your shoulders have to be okay with that position. Same with the knees. Walk them into placement under the hip sockets, toes point back. And then, if it's okay on your shoulders, we'll do the 4 movements to stabilize the shoulders. So tone the belly, bend the elbows slightly, hug the hands isometrically back toward you. Second part of that is to push the hands isometrically apart. Third part, push the hands forward. Notice how each part affects your shoulders. The fourth part and final part is to hug in. As your hands hug in, your index knuckle pads ground down more, your arms straighten without locking. And feel the great stability of that. And hopefully, instead of discomfort from the strength, you actually have space and more comfort. And then with that, practice a little bit of the heart gliding and the arm bone flossing. It's not going to move as much, but I want you to sense that you have control over that shoulder movement and that you still have mobility, even though you have all those angles of the shoulders creating a stable socket. So that motion's important. What you're teaching yourself is you wrap muscle around it, your tissues create space for the socket, and then you can move the arm bone slightly out from the socket, back into the socket without bumping into things, hopefully. All right, then pause. And you can keep the hands and arms strong as you wish. Inhale, tip the tail downward. And exhale, begin to move your way up through the crown of the head. When you're ready, the tail and sits bones will start the movement, tipping the other way as you inhale. Take your awareness deep into the spinal column as you exhale, vertebra by vertebra, the neck long without cranking the chin up. And when you're ready, the sits bones and the tailbone initiate the other direction again. A full round of breath for each movement, Betalasana, cat and cow. On your next in-breath, return to a neutral spine and walk your hands a handprint forward. Curl the toes. Feel the steadiness in your arms, in your hands. Tone the belly. Lift the knees up and then slowly pull the pelvis up a couple inches and then shift your shoulders forward a couple inches. Then pull the pelvis up a couple inches and shift the weight forward. Couple more of those, rising up through the hips and pelvis and shifting forward. And last time, as you pull up, think of that clothesline extending the pelvis way up in the air, the arm bones still in that beautiful spacious state, the neck, let it kind of S-curve into a longer neck, side to side release. And then bend one knee at a time. And roll to the top side of each foot. Maybe add in a little twist. All right, then high up on the clothesline again, neck long, shoulders in the just right position. As you're hanging on the clothesline, imagine a little breeze comes by and your hips start to just very subtly sway in that breeze. And you might feel kind of that snake river feeling of the pelvis beginning the motion, and then it moves through the spine. Your shoulders take a little bit of different weight each direction. Your head starts to follow that continuation of the snake river. And then settle it into a still high point. And whenever you're ready, you'll come down to pose of the child if you haven't already. Building your stamina, but being smart about it. So when you're ready, rest in Balasana. Let your arms rest. Breathe in and exhale out of the mouth. And gently lift the head. Pull your weight forward. Come back to tabletop. We're doing one more here, but we're not going to actually lift up the hand and the knee. So this is just engaging different degrees of how much weight you can lift up out of, say, let's do right hand, left knee. And it's not quite the hover position, but we're toning through the pit of the belly, and we're going to engage those deep transverse abdominis in here and the deep muscles right along the spine. So tone the belly, tip the sternum down, slide the head back, tip your chin down. Start to remove some of the weight out of the right hand, and notice how your back responds to that. And then your left knee. Doesn't mean it's going to lift up. So you can choose to take out 20% of the weight, 50%, 90%. So that's how this becomes more therapeutic, as you're approaching your body in its ability to do this without pain today. Try to breathe. And then put the weight back into the right hand, left knee, and just a normal breath, relax belly. Good. And then shore up, kind of knit together the low belly muscles, sternum tips down, head slides back, tip the chin down. Start to take just some of the weight out of the left hand, incrementally. Notice what's what's right for your body today. And then start to do the same with the right knee. So left hand, right knee. So in certain studies, when we've tweaked our back and our SI joint for whatever reason, some of these deeper muscles seem to go offline. So remember when I was talking about amnesia? They seem to stop working. So it can take a while, and it can sort of repeat itself where our back is sore, and then it kind of feels good today and gets sore again. So this move is meant to get those muscles back online gently, but with strength. Okay, set down again. Good job. Exhale. Take your time into cat. And when you're ready, inhale gently into cow. And then come back to neutral. So we're going to walk our hands with toes curled under, walk hands back toward knees, lift the knees up. Keep walking back as symmetrically as possible. Transfer one hand to the leg, then the other. Make sure you're not dizzy as you press up higher. And then with belly toned, sternum in place, head slid back, you're going to hip hinge. Use your hands too. Walk the hands up, pelvis moves forward, head moves with the pelvis. Good. And real important to bend well. Always important for that, but especially if you have some things going on in the low back sacrum. If you have a block available, you can do this without the block, but if you have one, go ahead and grab it. So since we're focusing deeply, we're just going to stay with that theme, with sciatica
issues and SI joint. Here's the outline of the SI joint, if you're curious, the inverted triangular bone. Here's the sort of elephant ear aspects of the pelvis. This bone clicks in, tail hangs off there. Your low back curve attaches to the sacrum. So in Donna Fari's work, she unfortunately broke her pelvis in 3 places a few years back from a horse riding incident. So she's had to, as a 35 plus year teacher, rebuild even the whole notion of pelvis. So she knows a lot about it. One of the things she does when people's SI joints aren't happy, they have sciatica going on, she keeps the poses symmetrical. That means we wouldn't be doing the warrior 2 triangles. So today we're going to play with that. Bring the block between the inner thighs, not too high, not too personal there, and not at the knees, so it's not on the bone. So just using this even in standing, it's that midline kind of action. You don't have to squeeze with all your might. So it's not about creating undue tension. It's just about shoring things up and giving yourself sort of it's like an internal ace bandage around your body. So feet will match the blocks, and they may be slightly ducked out. They might be straight on. And then you're going to feel, make sure you're in good position. That always helps. So if you tend to tuck, we definitely want to get that back. And you're going to feel just a subtle, just see if you can greet the block with the thigh muscles. Subtle hugging in. And then feel how the inner thigh adductors go right up through the pelvic floor. That shoots right up through the center of the abdominal core. And you might feel that bigger support. With that, you're going to practice your chair pose with hands on the front of the thighs. So you're going to sit back with that little bit of hugging, and your head's going to align. And as soon as you feel like, oop, a little pinch, I want you to not go any farther than that bend. You're going to come up out of the pinch, and then inhale, rise up. Exhale. Inhale, bend in. And stop before you feel any pinch. Exhale while you're there. Press down. Inhale, rise up. Exhale, standing well. Inhale, bend in. And again, the reason we're using the inhale on the movements, exhale while you're here, inhale, come up, is that adds to support in the low back through intra-abdominal pressure. Inhale, bend. Keep that beautiful alignment with head and sacrum. Next inhale, stand. And 2 more of those. Just think of moving on your inhale. Good. All right, so as you're here, fascia again, we have that little bit of tone. You're not squeezing with all your might. Knees are unlocked, pelvis in great position, ribs level. Take the hands to the back of the neck, pull up through the base of the skull. And we're going to bring our arms out to a T. And then we're just going to do a subtle crescent. So notice we're not going very far. So we tip over to the left, just enough that you feel these muscles starting to contract slightly. These muscles are slowing you down, keeping you from going very far. So what we're doing is creating these sort of long strands of muscles that help support the torso. We're waking them up. And then inhale, pull to the right, slowly bring yourself up. Inner thighs still gently engaged. Exhale, a subtle action over to the right. And you feel kind of these girders. They're like the long metal twine rope that's holding up a bridge, and you're feeling it also, even though it's contracting here, it's still pulling and lifting. And then inhale back up. We'll do 1 more each way. Exhale over to the left. Not about the depth, more about how you're doing what you're doing. Inhale back up. Exhale over to the right. Breathe there. And inhale back up. Excellent. Okay, hands are going to come down. We're going to bend, take the block out for a moment. And then taking your feet out a moderate width. And we're just going to keep the legs straight on here. Okay? So as you're here, we're going to practice what I've seen in like moon salutations as goddess pose. So we're going to bring the arms out, bend the elbows, and then as you bend, you're going to squat. Now, come back up again. If the straight on bend doesn't feel great to you, you can do a subtle rotation out with the hips, knees, and toes and bend that way. Okay, so that would be more our kind of natural alignment primal squat. So inhale, let's go in, pause there, tip your chin slightly down, zip up the belly, tone the sternum, and notice how things are feeling all through the low back, all through the hips. And then press down, inhale, rise up, exhale out into a little starfish position. From your starfish, check in again. Did you tend to flare your ribs open? Often happens for us. So level it all out, pelvis over the back calf of the feet, and pull a little bit more with the right arm. And then come back, pull a little bit with the left arm, and come back. So you can think of, sometimes I talk about those the old toys where you push on the buttons and the strings would pull the body in different directions. So as you're pulling and gently coming back, not real exaggerated, but notice how far across the body and down the body you can feel that. Good. Last one. Excellent. Come back with the bent elbows, sit into goddess pose. Feel that direct diagonal line through the spine. So I'll show that from the side. So you've got that good chair pose sort of sensation in the body. And then pressing down, inflate up, exhale, open to the starfish again. And exhale, hands out and down to the heart. Bend the knees, plant the hands on the pelvis, and practice your heel-toe action. See how that feels as your hips are, we've done a lot for the hips to teach them how to move without irritating the sacrum. Okay, so the next phase of this would be to do straight-on poses with the legs split. So we're going to try a warrior one. And my suggestion, if you have pain in this area today and it fires it up, take this stance much shorter. So I'm going to go to the narrow edge of my mat. You can do the same. And we're going to find our mountain pose, bend into the knees, find the 3 points of power. So you've got your head, sternum, and belly aligned. Put the weight into the right foot and step your left foot back once and maybe a second time. But here the pelvis is staying straight on. So not going real long with the stance. Then as you ground, check in with your pelvis. Don't adjust it once you're there. If it's a little bit off kilter, I want you to step back up. Keep those pelvic points straight on and step back without moving them. So now we're straight on. We have our channel space. Bend the front knee. We're going to keep it really natural alignment style here, so we're not going to be as straight up and down as we are right now. I want you to bring your arms forward, hug the cloud, tip the navel in, sternum down, head down, and see how I'm kind of doing that slight diagonal like we did in goddess pose and chair pose. So still an excellent calf stretch. You can feel that down the leg. You can feel the front leg solid and the spine not being asked to back bend here. So it's a little more a J-curve oriented spine. And breathe. And it's great core. You can feel it having to kind of wrap around you, this band of strength. Virabhadrasana Eka, warrior one. All right, sweep the arms forward, bend that front knee, lift the back heel, and slide the foot up and shake it out. Okay, so from here, bend the knees. We'll keep the left foot forward, hands on the pelvic point so you can kind of sense you're not going to move them from the square position. Right foot steps back once, maybe twice, without the pelvis having to open. The longer the step, the pelvis will have to open up. So for this purpose, we're keeping it shorter and square. Bend the front knee. Feel that good calf stretch. Make sure the joints are happy. You have channel space. Inhale the arms around in front. Exhale, hug the beach ball. Tip the navel, sternum, and head slightly more into that diagonal angle. And breathe. Nice, easy breaths. And so it's really concentrating in that kidney loop zone. You can really feel, can you move the breath that direction? That too will help to open and space out those tissues while you're strengthening them.
Good job. All right, let's lower the arms. Take your weight forward, pivot onto the back ball of the foot, pull the head forward and slide the foot up and shake it out. Okay, now here's just an energetic kind of qigong slash, learned this from a healer, body worker that I worked with years ago. And he gave it to me for sciatica when I had some sciatica going on. So basically it's a working of the energy line of the side of the legs and side of the buttocks. And you kind of rub along that area and make sure you're hip hinging as you do this. You could do this seated too, but it works best standing. So you work that down, kind of warming it up, and you work it down the outer shins if possible, if your back's willing. And then you come to the top of it and you rush it out with kind of a whoosh sound in your mouth. Out to your hands. Shake it out. Slide up again. So you're mostly standing and you're going to whoosh it down through the legs. And shake it out. And inhale up. Rub it a little bit. And shake it out. A couple more. All right. This time, as you slide up, inhale, bring the arms all the way up. Reach to the sky. So we're doing still the symmetry, but reach up a little bit further with your right hand or your left hand. I'm mirroring you. And then your other hand. So just a little movement there in the ribs, the pelvis staying pretty well set. Good. And then we're going to breathe it in. And as you exhale, out of the mouth slow, slide down the sides of the body, side of the chest, out. Shake it out. We'll do that again. I'll show from a diagonal. Inhale up. Reach it up. Exhale out of the mouth slow. Down the sides of the body. And then whoosh, whoosh. Shake it out. Inhale one more time up. Reach it up. Exhale out of the mouth. Whoosh down the legs. Whoosh. And shake it out. Good. And then walk it up if you need to, or inhale, rising up. And as we bring it up last time, just bring it up, reaching for the sky. Level out your ribs, the head, find the shoulder position, feel the energy streaming through you. Breathe in and exhale out and down, coming back to your heart. Good. Okay, grab a blanket. You might even want a second one for your head. And if you have a block and belt available today, we are going to finish in constructive rest. So you did a lot of that work of finding it with the teeter-totter and the pelvic circle move. You can also use a rolled towel if you don't have a block, and you could use an exercise band instead of a yoga belt. And it's not a have to have the props, it's just helpful. It lets you relax more deeply into it. So you come on down, heading toward your back. You can have a second blanket under your head. The width of the block, for most, unless you're real petite and you have a thick block, you could use the thinner one, but most of us are going to use the second width. Make sure you don't go super wide. That's too wide. You want it as close as possible to hip socket width apart. Okay? Then the belt goes under the thighs, and you wrap it through. So if you have a sort of that D-shaped metal buckle, go through both, and then weave it through the center to tighten it up, kind of like a cargo pants belt. And then you tighten it up above the knee joint, just enough to feel secure. It's not cutting off blood flow there. And then your feet will be able to feel it better once we're lying down. But make sure that your hips are on the same surface and that your upper back, and if you have a second blanket, it's under your head. So as you make your way down, make sure that you're not having to squeeze the block, not at all. So the block stays relaxed and supported by the belt. And then the hands, they can rest at the thigh creases if you wish, or they can be at your sides. If you have kind of an emotional release coming through this, because it releases the iliopsoas, that can happen. You could also hug wrap around yourself or place your hands just on your body. So let's also scoot the upper back up the mat slightly. And you might lift the buttocks up, set them down. You're getting as level and relaxed in the buttocks and pelvis as possible. The feet will be fully grounded. All the toes, the bottoms of the toes, the 4 tires of the feet, the natural arches there. And so you scoot your feet out just far enough that the feet are comfortable sinking in and they're a comfortable width, so you're not tipping off one side or the other side of the foot. And you're far enough out that the low back curve naturally shows up. So you're not flattening the back, you're not overarching it. Breathe into the belly, exhale, soften the viscera, soften the gut, all the contents. Let it relax. Soften the front floating ribs. Soften the heart and the lungs. Soften your face again, relaxing the eyes and surrounding muscles. The eyelids soften. You almost get a sense of a hollowness there at the front of the eyes. The tongue rests down, part the teeth. The neck and shoulders just cascading away from the ears, connecting deeply to all the areas that you can feel against the earth right now. Let them meld in even more. Feel your breath breathing you. And you become like the blue sky. And whatever weather comes through, clouds passing, rain or storm, you continue to rest back as that open sky. You might have little tweaks or twinges in the hips or sacrum or buttocks or belly. Sometimes when I've practiced this, a little bit of pain comes through, but then it releases. And if you need to adjust something, listen to that. Relax.
softly. Let your awareness return. Return to your body, how it's resting. Return to the subtle movement of breath without moving, just noticing the areas that may have been able to soften and let go. Check in with your overall state of mind and emotion. And returning to your breath, begin to lengthen and deepen it. See if the breath is able to go all the way down toward the bowl of the pelvis and all the way up to the collarbones. Wiggle the fingers, the toes, and maybe let the head sway. When you practice constructive rest and the psoas muscles begin to relax, those same muscles are needed to bring the legs back in. So we want to do that mindfully. So when you're ready, come up on the ball of, let's say, right foot. Slide the right foot in a bit closer. And then come up on the ball of the left foot and slide that foot in closer. Just kind of keep sliding one foot then the other up closer until you can't move any farther in. At that point, pick a strong leg and inhale that leg up towards you. If you have the belt around you, it will drag the other one with it. Then you can begin to loosen up the belt if needed, pull the block out, and move the belt off of the body. An interesting little check after constructive rest is to free yourself of the props and then let the knees just come towards you and widen. And sometimes you'll feel a palpable difference of the space there down at the thigh crease, maybe the ability of the knees to relax toward you, maybe a comfort deep in those flexors. Breathe it in. And just hug yourself, rock gently, grateful for the time you've taken for you today. And then rolling to one side. Breathe into your back. And on the in-breath, press yourself up. In closing, our hands join at our hearts, our deep appreciation offered from our hearts to each other. May we continue to hone and delve into the yogic practices of satya, truth, and viveka, discernment, so that we can continue to be guided by our inner wisdom, by critical thinking, by logic, and by having our eyes and ears open to what is going on around us. May we share our wisdom with our loved ones and with the world. And to each other, we say namaste. Namaste.